Captain Isabella Reynolds stood at the helm of the Earth Fleet vessel Hyperion, her dark eyes fixed on the massive crystalline ship that had appeared in Earth's orbit just hours ago. The ship's iridescent surface caught sunlight in ways that defied physics, sending cascading rainbows across the observation deck. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tension coursing through her body. "Still no hostile signatures, Captain," Lieutenant Kai Petal responded from his tactical station. "Their shields remain lowered, and weapon systems are dormant. They're maintaining position at 500 kilometers. Isabella nodded, her short silver-streaked hair catching the light from the alien vessel. At 45, she was one of Earth Fleet's most decorated captains, known for her diplomatic successes as much as her tactical prowess. But nothing in her 20 years of service had prepared her for this moment. "The transmission is repeating, Captain," Communications Officer Ruchia Okoro announced, her fingers dancing across her holographic interface. "They're requesting to speak with Earth's leadership. The language matches all known Centaurian dialects, but the syntax is different, more complex." The bridge crew held their breath. Humanity had encountered the Centaurians 3 years ago, crystalline beings who had helped Earth develop faster than light travel. But this ship was unlike anything in their database. "Put it on screen," Isabella ordered. The holographic display shimmered to life, and collective gasps echoed across the bridge. Before them stood a being of pure light and crystal. Her form, both solid and ethereal geometric patterns, shifted across her surface like living mathematics, forming what appeared to be flowing robes and a crown of crystalline spires. "I am Queen Lyra of the Stellar Harmonic Convergence." The being spoke, her voice resonating like wind through crystal chimes. "I come seeking asylum from those who would destroy the peace between organic and crystalline life." Isabella felt her heart race. This wasn't just first contact, this was first contact with royalty from an unknown civilization. "Your Majesty, I am Captain Isabella Reynolds of Earth Fleet. We're honored by your presence, but I must ask, why Earth?" The Crystal Queen's light dimmed slightly. "Your people are unique in this sector of space. You have achieved harmony with my Centaurian cousins where others have failed. I have watched your progress, Captain. Your species possesses something rare, the ability to bridge divides that seem insurmountable." Over the next few weeks, Queen Lyra's presence transformed Earth's political landscape. She shared technologies beyond human comprehension, offered insights into cosmic phenomena that revolutionized physics, and began working with Earth's scientists to develop new forms of energy generation. Isabella found herself assigned as the Queen's primary liaison, spending countless hours learning about Lyra's culture and history. The Queen's intelligence and curiosity about human nature fascinated her, and Isabella often caught herself staring at the way Lyra's crystalline form created aurora-like displays when she was excited about a new discovery. But not everyone welcomed the alien Queen's influence. Admiral Viktor Petrov of the Earth Fleet Security Council grew increasingly vocal about the risks of sharing technology with an unknown species. "She claims to seek asylum," he would say in closed meetings, "but what if she's really an advanced scout for an invasion?" Isabella defended Lyra passionately, perhaps too passionately. She knew she was developing feelings that went beyond diplomatic courtesy, feelings that both thrilled and terrified her. How could she be falling in love with a being of crystal and light? Everything changed on the night of the Harmony celebration, an event marking 3 months since Lyra's arrival. The Queen was preparing to announce a breakthrough in quantum crystalline computing that would have launched human technology forward by centuries. Isabella was heading to Lyra's chambers when her ship's AA reported multiple unauthorized transports. By the time she reached the Queen's quarters, she found only shattered crystal fragments and a message burned into the wall. The harmony ends now. Hours later, as Isabella stood in the empty chamber, clutching a single crystal shard that had once been part of Lyra's crown, she received the official order. Earth would not pursue the Queen's kidnappers. The risk of interstellar conflict was too great. But as she stared at the crystal in her hand, watching it pulse with a faint, familiar light, Isabella knew she couldn't obey that order. Somewhere out there, a queen of light and crystal was waiting, and Isabella Reynolds had never been very good at leaving people behind. She pressed her comm badge. "Lieutenant Patel, Officer Okoro, meet me in my ready room. Bring only those you trust completely. We have a rescue to plan." The crystal shard pulsed brighter, as if in approval, and Isabella smiled grimly. They might court-martial her for this, but some things were worth risking everything for. Some people were worth saving, no matter the cost. As she strode toward her ready room, Isabella's mind was already racing through possibilities. She would need a fast ship, a loyal crew, and a lot of luck. But first, she needed a plan, and she knew exactly where to start. "You're talking about treason, Captain." Lieutenant Kai Patel's normally steady voice wavered as he studied the holographic star charts floating above Isabella's desk. Not just against Earth Fleet, against the entire Security Council. Isabella leaned forward, her fingers trailing through the holographic stars. "I'm talking about doing what's right, Kai. You saw what happened after Lyra's kidnapping. The Council didn't even launch an investigation. Rukia Okoro, who had been quietly analyzing data streams in the corner, looked up. They're covering something up. I've been monitoring Council communications. There's a pattern of deleted messages and encrypted transmissions that started 2 weeks before the kidnapping." The ready room fell silent as the implications sank in. Outside the viewport, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the void, seemingly peaceful despite the political storm brewing on its surface. "We'll need a ship," Isabella continued, pulling up schematics for the Hyperion. "Something fast, well-armed, but small enough to avoid detection. I might have a solution." All heads turned to Dr. Nizar Hassan, the Hyperion's chief engineer, who had been so quiet they'd almost forgotten his presence. "Remember the prototype stealth frigate they mothballed last year? The Shadow Dancer?" Isabella's eyes lit up. The Shadow Dancer had been an experimental vessel designed to test new stealth technologies before the project was mysteriously cancelled. "Where is she now?" Gathering dust in orbital dock 17, Nazar replied with a slight smile. "And I just happen to have maintained my access codes from the test phase." Over the next week, they moved carefully. Rukia used her communications expertise to create false orders, while Nasser began quietly transferring essential supplies to the Shadow Dancer. Kai worked his contacts in fleet security, building a picture of which dock workers could be trusted. But it was Isabella who faced the hardest task, selecting a crew. Every person they brought in multiplied their risk of discovery. In the end, she chose only 15, engineers, tactical officers, and medical staff who had either worked directly with Lyra or had personal reasons to distrust the Council's growing authoritarianism. They planned their departure for the graveyard shift of Earth's biggest holiday, when skeleton crews and automated systems handled most operations. But 3 hours before launch, Isabella's comm badge chirped. "Captain Reynolds, report to Admiral Petrov's office immediately." Her heart nearly stopped. Had they been discovered? She met Kay's worried gaze across the ready room. "Proceed as planned," she whispered. "If I'm not back in 2 hours, launch without me." The walk to Petrov's office felt like marching to an execution. But when she entered, she found not a security team, but the Admiral alone, staring out his window at the stars. "Beautiful night for a rescue mission, wouldn't it be, Captain?" Isabella's blood froze. Petrov turned, his weathered face unreadable. "Did you think we wouldn't notice the requisitions? The crew transfers. The power allocations to a supposedly decommissioned dock." "Sir, I can explain." He held up a hand. "No need. I've been waiting to see who would have the courage to do what needs to be done." He walked to his desk and pressed a button. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a crystal similar to the one Isabella had recovered from Lyra's chambers. "The Queen gave this to me the day she arrived," Petrov said softly. "She knew someone would betray her. She also knew someone would come for her." He extended the crystal. "This will help you find her. But officially, this conversation never happened. If you're caught, I will deny everything." Isabella took the crystal with trembling hands. "Why, sir? Why help now?" Petrov's eyes grew distant. 30 years ago, I made the wrong choice. I followed orders instead of my conscience, and good people died. I won't make that mistake again." He straightened. "Now go. You have a queen to save, Captain." The next 2 hours passed in a blur. When Isabella reached the Shadow Dancer, she found her crew ready, the ship humming with power. As they initiated launch sequences, alarms began blaring across the station. "Multiple security teams converging on Dock 17, Kai reported tensely. "They're on to us." "Seal all hatches," Isabella ordered, settling into the captain's chair. "Nisser, how long until we can jump?" "Drive's still spinning up. 3 minutes minimum." "Security override in progress," Rukia warned. "They're trying to lock down the dock doors." Isabella clutched the 2 crystals, watching them pulse in sync. "Route emergency power to the shields." "We're not stopping now." The dock doors began to close. Armed security teams appeared on the gantries. But in that moment, Isabella felt a familiar presence, as if Lyra herself were guiding them. "On my mark, full thrusters. We're going to thread the needle." The Shadow Dancer roared to life, its experimental engines glowing like captured stars. They shot through the narrowing dock doors with meters to spare, alarms screaming and weapons fire splashing harmlessly off their shields. As Earth fell away behind them, Isabella felt a weight lift from her shoulders. They were committed now, outlaws, traitors, and possibly the only hope an alien queen had left. "Plot a course to the outer system," she ordered. "We'll jump once we're clear of tracking range." She held up the crystal Petrov had given her, watching it pulse in harmony with her own. "And then, my queen, we're coming for you." The crystals flared brightly, casting rainbow patterns across the bridge. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a being of light and crystal waited. And this time, humanity wouldn't stand idly by while hope was extinguished. Would you like me to continue with part 3? The story is building tension while developing both the personal and political aspects of the rescue mission. The Shadow Dancer drifted silently through the asteroid field at the edge of the Carina Nebula, its experimental stealth systems making it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. Isabella studied the holographic display where 2 crystals floated in a containment field, their pulsing growing stronger. "We're getting closer," she murmured. After 3 weeks of cat and mouse games with Earth fleet patrols and dodging mysterious ships that seemed to be searching for them, they were finally closing in on their target. "Captain," Rukia called from her station, "I'm picking up a transmission. It's heavily encrypted, but the frequency matches what we recorded during the kidnapping." Isabella leaned forward. "Can you crack it?" "Already working on it." The encryption's unlike anything I've seen, but Rukia's eyes widened. Wait, the crystals. They're resonating with the signal. The two crystals had indeed begun to vibrate, their pulsing synchronizing with the incoming transmission. Patterns of light danced between them, forming what looked like. Those are coordinates, Kai said, quickly inputting the data. They point to, by the stars. He looked up, face pale. The Forbidden Zone. Everyone on the bridge fell silent. The Forbidden Zone was a sector of space that the Centaurians had specifically warned humanity to avoid, claiming it contained dangers beyond their comprehension. No ship that had ventured there had ever returned. Trap. Nazar suggested from engineering. Possibly, Isabella admitted. But it's also the perfect place to hide someone you don't want found. She touched the larger crystal gently. And Lyra's trying to reach us. I can feel it. A sudden alarm blared through the ship. Multiple contacts, Kai shouted. 3 warships just dropped out of FTL. Configuration unknown, but their weapons are hot. The ships were unlike anything Isabella had seen before. Dark crystalline structures that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with impossible grace, quickly moving to surround the Shadow Dancer. Hail them, Isabella ordered. Channel open. Unknown vessels. This is Captain Isabella Reynolds off. She caught herself. They weren't Earth fleet anymore. Of the independent vessel Shadow Dancer, we mean no harm. The response came in a harsh, grating frequency that made the bridge crew wince. You carry the resonance crystals. Surrender them, and your lives will be spared. Isabella's hand instinctively went to the crystals. I'm afraid I can't do that. They were given to us in trust. Then you will die with the rest of your primitive species when the Great Dissonance begins. The transmission cut off. The enemy ships began charging weapons. Evasive maneuvers. Isabella commanded. Nasser, I need everything you can give the engines. Kai, target their propulsion systems only. The Shadow Dancer leaped into action, its experimental drive allowing it to move in ways the larger ships couldn't match. But their opponents were powerful, their dark crystal weapons sending out beams that seemed to distort space itself. Direct hit. Nazar reported as the ship shuddered, port shields failing. Isabella watched the battle unfold, her mind racing. The enemy ships moved in perfect formation, almost like they're crystalline beings, she realized. Like Lyra, but corrupted somehow. They're maintaining a geometric pattern. Kai, target the exact center point between their formation. But there's nothing there, he protested. Trust me. The Shadow Dancer's main gun fired, its beam striking empty space. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to crack, a resonance wave expanding outward. The enemy ship's formation broke, their crystalline structures vibrating violently. Their shields are down, Kai reported triumphantly. Get us out of here, Isabella ordered. Maximum speed toward those coordinates. As they fled toward the Forbidden Zone, Isabella studied the crystals, which were now pulsing more urgently than ever. The Great Dissonance, she murmured. Lyra tried to warn us about this. Whatever's happening, it's bigger than a simple kidnapping. Captain, Rukia called, her voice tense. I finished decoding more of that transmission. It wasn't just coordinates. There was a message. The harmony must be preserved. The discordant ones cannot be allowed to shatter the great song. Isabella remembered how Lyra had described her people's technology, not as mechanical constructs, but as parts of a vast, cosmic symphony. They're planning something, she said. Something that could destroy both crystalline and organic life. and Lyra. She was trying to stop them, Kai finished. That's why they took her. The Shadow Dancer approached the boundary of the Forbidden Zone, where space itself seemed to ripple like water. The crystals were now blazing with light, their song filling the bridge with haunting harmonies. All hands, battle stations, Isabella commanded. Whatever's waiting for us in there, we face it together. She touched the larger crystal one last time, sending out a thought she hoped would reach across the void. Hold on, Lyra, we're coming. As they crossed the boundary, reality seemed to shift and blur. The Shadow Dancer's sensors went wild, reporting impossible readings. But through it all, the crystals sang their song of guidance, leading them deeper into the unknown. The rescue mission had just become a race to save not just a queen, but perhaps all of existence itself. And somewhere in the darkness ahead, Isabella knew, answers awaited, along with the woman of crystal and light who had changed her life forever. The hidden prison. The Forbidden Zone twisted reality around the Shadow Dancer like a kaleidoscope gone mad. Space itself seemed to crystallize, forming impossible geometric patterns that shifted and reformed with every passing moment. At the heart of this chaos, a massive structure loomed, a prison built from dark crystal that absorbed all light. Life signs? Isabella asked, her eyes fixed on the fortress. Multiple readings, Kai responded, but they're strange. Like they're both there and not there at the same time. Except, he adjusted his sensors. One signal is different, stronger, more coherent. Lyra, Isabella whispered. The crystals they carried pulsed in confirmation, their light forming a clear path through the quantum instabilities surrounding them. They found the queen in the heart of the prison, suspended in a chamber of anti-harmonic energy that kept her form barely cohesive. When Isabella's team breached the chamber, they discovered the terrible truth. The discordant ones weren't just holding Lyra prisoner. They were using her as a key component in a device designed to shatter the fundamental harmonics that held both organic and crystalline life together. But they weren't alone in their rescue attempt. As they fought to free Lyra, they discovered other prisoners, crystalline beings who had opposed the discordant one's plans. With their help, and Lyra's weakened guidance, they began to understand the full scope of what they faced. The final battle shook the foundations of reality itself. The discordant ones had built their weapon into the very structure of the prison, and as Lyra was freed, the entire complex began to collapse into quantum chaos. We have to stabilize the harmonic core, Lyra said, her voice weak but determined as Isabella supported her crystalline form. If it fractures completely, the dissonance will spread across the galaxy, shattering the bond between matter and energy itself. What followed was a desperate race against time, with organic and crystalline beings working together in ways never before attempted. Isabella found herself linked directly with Lyra through the resonance crystals, their minds and hearts joining in a symphony of survival as they rewove the fabric of space-time itself. In those moments of connection, everything became clear. The true nature of the universe, the deep harmony that bound all life together, and the love that had grown between them, transcending the boundaries of their different forms of existence. The discordant ones made their final attack as the harmonics stabilized, their dark crystal ships emerging from quantum space like avenging angels. But they faced something unprecedented. A unified fleet of human, Centaurian, and freed crystalline ships, all moving in perfect harmony under the guidance of a human captain and a crystal queen. The battle was brief but spectacular, the combined fleet using the principles of harmonic resonance to shatter the discordant one's ships into quantum dust. As the last enemy vessel dissolved, Lyra turned to Isabella, her crystalline form glowing with renewed strength. "You risked everything to save me," the Queen said, her light patterns forming what Isabella now recognized as a smile. "Your species truly is remarkable." Isabella reached out, her hand passing through Lyra's crystalline surface to touch the pure energy at her core. "We're better together than apart, all of us." In the aftermath, the Galactic Council, now expanded to include both organic and crystalline species, pardoned Isabella and her crew. Their actions had not only saved countless lives, but had opened the door to a new era of cooperation between different forms of life. The Shadow Dancer became the first of a new class of hybrid ships, crewed by both humans and crystalline beings. And at its helm stood Captain Isabella Reynolds, with Queen Lyra's crystalline form often seen beside her, their energies harmonizing in ways that inspired poets and scientists alike. Together, they embodied a truth that echoed across the cosmos, that love, courage, and harmony could bridge any divide, transform any obstacle, and light the way to a future brighter than any single species could create alone. As they set out on their first official mission of exploration, Isabella looked at the being of light and crystal beside her and smiled. They had risked everything for love and duty, and in doing so, they had found something greater than either. They had found a new way forward for all life in the galaxy. The stars stretched out before them, full of endless possibilities, as organic and crystalline beings worked together in perfect harmony, their combined song echoing through the cosmos, a testament to the power of unity, courage, and love that transcended the boundaries of form and space itself. The end.